and today is episode 5. We're going to be talking about meditation and visualization. First off, we're going to do a cleansing breath. I still get nervous, you guys, so the cleansing breath is for me. Like, it's for you guys too, but it's because I need it more than anybody else. Okay, so if you're driving, keep your eyes open, but still, mentally kind of ground yourself and listen to my words, get in that kind of relaxed headspace. But if you can, close your eyes, close your eyes. If you need to shake it off, shake your arms out or anything, do that. I like to put my hands on my heart. Do what feels right to you. Okay, we're going to go in through the nose. Hold at the top and exhale through the mouth. And one more time. Okay. Whew, that's bright. Oh my God. Okay, that's good. Thank you. I needed that. All right. So today, meditation, visualization. So I mean, I've kind of talked about this stuff like bits and pieces here and there. But I wanted to actually kind of dig into this more because I think there are some misconceptions about meditating. People get intimidated by it, I think, because of these misconceptions, and that's misleading. Like, that doesn't help people out. Excuse me. Especially like new people. Excuse me. Yeah, newbies to meditating, like there's a lot of things that maybe are preconceived notions that could hinder somebody from trying it because they just don't know what to expect, or maybe they've only heard certain things, or they try it maybe once or twice and it's difficult and they think they're doing it wrong, so they just give up. Because at the beginning it's not like, it's simple, but it's not easy. So, you know, so I'll kind of dig into that more. But if you have meditated before or have tried it, and it's like, I'm pretty sure everyone would reflect back on their first few times, or even more than a few, but especially in the very beginning of meditating, that it was difficult. And it goes like the way they portray it on TV makes it where you think you're doing it wrong. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit more. I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest, misconceptions about meditating is that you clear your whole brain, like your mind is clear, you have zero thoughts. It is quiet, like it's like empty in there. And you're supposed to just sit there and not think of anything. Now, this reminds me of the episode of Parks and Rec. If you've seen that show, Ron Swanson goes to he's with Chris Traeger, and they go to like the yoga studio or the meditation place, and oh yeah, Chris Traeger's like meditating in there all day, and Ron's just staring, like zoning out. He's not like participating, but he's kind of just standing there. And then his little commentary was like basically that he had no thoughts at all and he was just chilling, and just was kind of being funny about it, but like, because he didn't think he was doing it, but like as it's portrayed in the media, like he was doing it because his mind was clear. And there's like, it's like that's not true, but in a sense it is. Sorry, my hair's like going in on my face. If you're watching on YouTube, I was like, my hair was like almost in my mouth and it was bugging me. Anyway, it's like there's part of that is true, that like when you meditate, you get more clarity. So maybe that's why people say like your mind is clear, because you might get more clarity around certain things when you're sitting with your thoughts and trying to relax. But I believe that it's completely false that your mind is completely clear and like literally you have zero thoughts. I don't think that's possible at all. I mean, I'm not a monk, so like I don't know what that's like for someone that skilled in the practice where like I mean, I'm sure they still think of things, but like you know what I'm saying? From my experience, I don't think it's possible to have zero thoughts. I think that you can quiet your thoughts, you can redirect your thoughts, but if there's going to be thoughts, like your brain is made to think of things and it will find things to think about. Um, so that's huge. A misconception that like, okay, I'm gonna try meditating, and then like your brain just going blah 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 blah, like then you think you fucked up, and it's like that's not true. You didn't. The more you practice sitting in quiet, or even just with background music, but just kind of sitting like intentionally to focus and ground yourself, whether it's literal silence or not, like your thoughts are going to come and you're going to notice your brain is just going and going, and it's going to feel like your brain won't shut the fuck up and it's overwhelming, and then that might deter someone from trying again because they think, oh, I'm doing this wrong, my brain won't stop, I can't meditate, it's not for me. However, I believe that meditation, it's for practicing focus and intention. So the point to me is like you're learning to redirect and focus back on the intention that you started with your meditation. So like okay, so let me look at my notes here. So for example, like meditating with the intention of breath work, there's all different kinds of breath work meditations that you could do. There's a 4-7-8 breath. There's the box breath, which is like in breath for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, and kind of repeat, labeling your breath as inhale or exhale or 1 and 2. And those types of like things to focus on, that's what you go back to when you notice your brain is like starting to wander. I think the best part of meditating is the fact that number one, you even notice your mind is wandering. A lot of the times our minds will just zone out. I mean, like everybody's experienced this, right? Like you're just like sitting there. 1 second you are focused on whatever it is you're doing or watching or in class or like whatever. And then the next second, it might feel like a long time has passed because suddenly you realize, oh my God, I've just been zoning out thinking of like what restaurant I want to go to, or thinking of like some random thing like moving to the Caribbean, or just it could be like literally the most random shit that you might even snap yourself out of it, and it might be minutes later that you realize I've literally just been zoning out this whole time, like thinking of random things. But it like I think the fact that you notice it, that's a huge win because you were able to interrupt that pattern of like zoning out and letting your mind just kind of go wherever. You were able to stop that enough to recognize your brain was able to process, oh, I have been distracted. I'm not focused on what I was originally focused on. So I think that's huge. The fact that like number one, you can even realize when you zone out. That's amazing. And secondly, now that you notice that you have zoned out, what are you going to do to go back to the intention? So like when you're meditating, your brain is like it's going to test you. You're going to think of the most random things like groceries or what, like laundry, or like this event you want to go to, or maybe this event you went to in the past, and it just pops up. Like it could be any random thing. But if you can recognize that you have shifted focus and then intentionally go back to the center focus, like whether it was labeling your breaths or affirmations or mantras, that's another thing. Or it could just be like, I mean, it could be anything really, but going back to focusing on that's huge because that's the point of meditation. You have you are learning how to redirect and focus again. Because during life, you're going to get bombarded with all kinds of crap all the time. And your brain can only process so much, and it can get overwhelmed very easily. And I think if you have felt overwhelmed, meditating can help. And at first, especially if you've never done it, it's going to feel like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's going to feel difficult, and you might feel anxious and uncomfortable just sitting there, like trying to like get your brain to go back to like, instead of being like hyperactive and wound up, going, trying to go back and like settle, like that might feel uncomfortable. But I do think with practice, which is why meditation practice is called a practice, it's not like a meditation skill and you do it and then you master it. Like even people that, there's people who's like monks, they spend their whole lives practicing this skill set. It doesn't mean they automatically can do it amazing 100% of the time. Like they're still human, they're gonna struggle and have times where it's difficult. So don't let that discourage you. Like it's a practice for a reason. Everybody's can relate to having struggles. Even people who've done it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years plus, they're gonna have days that it's hard, where their brain is just going, and it's gonna take a lot of intention, a lot of focus to try and like redirect and go back to that center intention. So I guess the point of me explaining all this is to not get discouraged. Like everybody struggles with this at one point or another, and to just know that the growth comes with the learning. So the more you realize, wow, I'm sidetracked as fuck right now, I can't concentrate. It could be like 5 seconds and I already zone out and think of something else. That's good, because you know where you're starting at, and it's just practice. Like it's good to struggle. And I mean, I know in the moment for somebody experiencing something difficult, like it's not fun to struggle. Like it sucks, okay? But but looking at it from like the outsider's perspective, or even in hindsight, it's good to struggle because you learn from that. So I would say, don't get discouraged. I highly recommend everybody at least try to meditate, and not just once, but like try it for a week, try it for a month, and just see what it can do. I think it can really help people out if they're willing to give it a shot. And even when it's hard, stick with it. And even if you have a meditation time where you go 5 seconds at a time before you get sidetracked, and you feel really like discouraged that it was difficult, like that's okay. Take it as a win, because it's practice. And the more you practice, the better you'll get. The more practice, your brain will learn how to handle that and how to respond to you meditating. Like at first it's going to be such a weird experience if you've never done it, where your brain's probably wondering like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you trying to sit and be quiet and like focus? Like what I feel like, I mean, I'm not a fucking neuroscientist or anything, but like I would think like the way if your brain is used to processing in a certain way, like any shift is going to be like, what the fuck? So even when it feels difficult, just keep trying. I really think it could help. And it also might be like the different types of meditations might resonate more with you than others. Like I really love guided meditations specifically, but because I like hearing audibly like a reminder to focus back on something. Like I'll do unguided, where it's just like ambient music, and sometimes there's times where like I've done just sitting and listening to like whatever is going on around me. And that's way more difficult to me, to just sit in silence and try to keep my focus. Guided meditations really help me, because it's easier for me to get back on track when I hear an audible cue of someone's voice, like saying whatever the message is. it just helps me kind of go back to that because I can hear it from a source outside of myself. You know what I mean? Okay, sorry, I'm trying to check my notes here. Yeah, guided meditations are my favorite. Mantras, sometimes I like those, and I'm working on creating my own now that I have like a microphone and things. I'm really excited to start making my own because I think that would, as weird as it is to hear my own voice, it's like, so your subconscious responds the best to that, because you're hearing yourself talk. So I'm excited to see how that changes how I handle meditating and the outcomes that come from that when I hear myself talk, and when after I create all these meditations on like topics that I'm interested in working on, I am really eager to see how that changes things, or if that even changes things. Because I think it's just neat. Our minds are so fascinating. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna make more audios, and I'll talk more about that at the end. But yeah, mantras are a good thing to use as an intention or a focus. And then other times, typically this is with like ambient music, but I'll just be like, tell me what I need to know, like talking to like a higher power of some sort, the universe, or however, whatever works for you, but just kind of saying like, tell me what I need to know, help me learn what I need to learn. And then just kind of sit and let my brain kind of wander, and just kind of let my thoughts come out in quiet. Like, not me forcing a thought, but me just kind of sitting there and letting the thoughts appear and come up. And then after that, I like journal everything out and kind of make sense of it. I like doing that. I don't do that very often, but I think that's very insightful, because you're uncovering like shit that's deep inside you that you might not have even given yourself a chance to like reflect on at all. You might have not even realized it was a thing that you even needed to reflect on, because you didn't ever give yourself a chance to think, like, you know what I mean? To let your thoughts come up. So that's where I feel like journaling is super helpful. Just like free writing, even if you don't sit in quiet beforehand, even just any type of brain dumping, free writing is really, it's insightful. You learn a lot about yourself when you give yourself the space to let out your thoughts, even if you don't know what you're going to say yet. Like, that is so fucking insightful. And the reason, I guess, why I've come to that realization, because there was so much of my life, or I should say my adult life, my young adult years, that I didn't do that. Like, when I was a teenager, I had diaries, and when I was in middle school and stuff. But as far as like me being a grown up and a parent, like I grew up and had kids basically at the same time. So, um, that young adult 20s, my whole 20s basically, um, I didn't really give myself the opportunity to do that. I did not give myself the space to think about anything. Like, I was just basically in survival mode for a very long time. And as far as like journaling or meditating or anything, like, no, I did not really take it seriously. Like, I did meditate and I did listen to like personal development type stuff, but near the end, like in mid to end of my 20s. But as far as taking it seriously, actually looking inward at myself, what can I work on? What can I do to learn about myself, to improve upon myself? Like, I definitely didn't do that for a very long time. Um, so yeah, I just think those are super powerful resources. And I hope you guys take something from that and utilize it if you haven't yet, or continue to utilize it if you are doing it now. So another side note, I almost said side quest, side quest, a side quest of this, a side note, meditating is visualizing. So visualization is basically using your imagination, which as adults, I feel like a lot of us, even as teenagers, honestly lose that ability, lose the desire to do that. Okay, because think of it this way. When we're kids, kids are fucking experts at this. They use their imagination, they play pretend all the fucking time, all day. Especially like real little kids where it's like they don't have school, they don't really, they're just like playing all day in their fucking imagination all the time, all day long. They are in it, they're playing their games. And it's like when you talk to them, like if you think about when you play with a kid, they are in it. They are in whatever they're pretending, and it's like so real. And I remember even just me like thinking back about my childhood, I would be like super into my stuff too. Like I had my Barbies and my Bratz dolls, and even like into my middle school years, like having my Barbies and my Bratz, and I would like set them up on my desk and like play little, like play like house or whatever, with them. How that they had like their little like spots, and like I organized it a certain way, and I was like just so entranced in like my dolls and or like Pokemon. Um at recess, I just had this memory of like in fourth grade playing Star Wars at recess, and like not the whole class, but a lot of us in my class, we all assigned characters to each other and just played, and we were like so in the game. Do you know what I mean? Or like playing house, like stuff like that, where it's like it just feels so real. You are so in it, and you recognize like, okay, I'm pretending this, but it feels like it's real life because you're just so in it. That is amazing. And like, I mean, at least for me, I could say like I was so in it and it felt real to me. I could assume that's the same for you guys too while you were kids, or even if you're practicing this type of just like imagination work as an adult, or even other kids, like I would think it feels real to them too. They are fully embodying the character, the superhero, the person, or even just a version. Maybe they're like mimicking, or like, what's the word, impersonating somebody else, or they're just pretending to be like a grown-up version of themselves, or whatever it may be. They're embodying that like it is real life. So basically, like that's what visualizing is. It's like you're embodying the energy or the person you want to be without having it in like your current state. Does that make sense? Um, and as I was typing these out, like I made the connection as I was like typing this out to talk about it. I never thought of it this way before, that as an adult in my mid-20s, I mean, I still kind of have hypothetical conversations. Okay, so let me explain. In my mid-20s, I had this issue of like, I mean, even like in my teen years, I would like have hypothetical conversations in my head about like what's going on, or like with my friends, or if I was nervous about something or upset. I still do this sometimes where I'm like thinking of the future and like hypothetically what's going on. I don't know if I cannot be the only one to do this, right? Anyway, so mid-20s, hypothetical conversations, right? I was so bitter and resentful and just unfulfilled in my mid-20s. I mean, even later on into like my 30s, but definitely it was like at its high point in my mid-20s. And basically I would be upset about whatever thing. And this is when I worked outside the home. So I would drive to work. The whole drive was like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. I would drive the whole time in my imagination, like I would be hypothetically having a conversation or an argument, but I would, since I was alone in my car, like I'd be saying it out loud while I was driving. But so basically, like where you have like an argument in your head or like a conversation. So I'm basically like getting myself all worked up in the car. I'm driving to work. This was me visualizing shitty energy, shitty conversations, drama, frustration. Like without even realizing it until literally today, as I'm typing about this topic, that I was visualizing that type of energy, like the arguments, the drama, the frustration, and it ended up coming back to me. Like I was attracting that because I kept visualizing it. I kept imagining it over and over happening every day that I was upset. And then no wonder why I kept coming back. Like, because that's why I kept putting out into the world, into the universe, that like I'm just gonna be pissed and mad, and there's no resolution like in these conversations. Like, do you know what I'm saying? It was just like a hot mess. And then that's what I ended up getting in my reality after that, was more hot mess, because that's what I kept embodying or visualizing, even if that wasn't my intention at the time. That's what I was doing. Because if you think of it like, okay, sorry, I was reading my notes. Like I'm going to talk more about manifesting a little bit, like in a little, but like what you focus on expands. So if you're constantly focused on all the drama and the frustration and the bitterness and the anger that you hold inside, or that a certain situation is giving you, like that's what's going to keep coming up for you. So to flip-flop that around, if you focus on the positive things, on how you want your life to be, or how you want yourself to be, your highest self, like the more you visualize that, you will find ways to become that. Does that make sense? I feel like I hope that I kind of like led into that in a smooth way. I don't know if I did, but basically I came to a conclusion. Like I realized I was doing the opposite of that for a very long time in my real life, and it ended up making my real life more difficult and frustrating, because I was looking outward at all the reasons why I was upset at other people. I was not looking inward at what can I do to better myself and become a higher version of myself, to improve. I just didn't. It took me so long, embarrassingly long, to realize, oh, I can look inward and like fix myself. It's not all the other people's fault. Like I contribute to it. Like it's so embarrassing to admit that, but it really took me years to be like, oh, I can look inward and like fix a lot of shit about me. It's so gross. Like when I think about that, I'm like, good Lord. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm just being real. Like it took me a long time. So the opposite of that is learning to, figure out what your highest self is, who they are, how they behave, stuff like that, and visualizing that. So for me, excuse me, I gotta have a drink. So for me, when I came to this conclusion, um, I literally just like got a notebook and wrote down this big ass list of shit. Like, what does highest self version of Carolyn do? What does she look like? What clothes does she have? What hair? What, makeup, teeth, physical appearance, like body composition, clothing style, body language, my mindset, my confidence, like every little thing I could think of, I wrote it all out in a notebook. And kind of, I mean, that was the first time I ever even gave myself a chance to think about that. And it was very enlightening to see that list and be like, okay, this is truly my highest self. This is all the qualities that she has, that I have. It's in me somewhere, it is. It's just, it's not my default yet. But it was so informative. Like it was kind of like, wow. I was not shocked, isn't the word. Like that's kind of a strong word, but it was impactful to to see that. Because then I knew, okay, this is where I want to be. So what can I do now to get there? So yeah, this ties into manifesting. If just look into manifestation, Manifestation Babe is a great resource. The movie The Secret, or it's a book too. But there's so much now, especially about it. So many books and things. But basically, the law of attraction is like what you focus on you will attract to you. So like how visualization plays into that is like you visualize embodying the energy, the qualities, the appearance, the whatever of what you want, and that you're going to align with that, and then it'll come to you. So whether it's like a financial situation, maybe a relationship, or like a career or anything, visualize that, embody it mentally, like in your head. Something Catherine Zankina, Manifestation Babe, said in one of her lives for like this challenge she was doing, but it was kind of just like, lie to yourself, like literally just imagine shit in your head, like just pretend, like just literally pretend that you're doing it, pretend. So like in the example she was saying, we were talking about money, so she was saying like, even if in this moment your budget, you cannot, how do I say this, your budget does not reflect you being able to purchase something in this moment that you want, literally just pretend like you're doing it. Like in your head, use your imagination, visualize it, just pretend like I'm buying what I want to buy. Even if even if I'm not buying it right this minute in my real life, visually imagine that I'm buying it and feel what that feels like. Like, how does that feel to buy that? Something maybe you've been saving up for it, or maybe you want to pay down a balance on something, or whatever it is. Like, think about it, imagine it, and then like feel into what that actually feels like for you. How does your body feel? How, like, do you feel excited? Do you feel happy? Are you emotional? Are you crying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Embody it. That's what I mean when I say that. So that was an interesting perspective for me to hear it said in that way, because I never thought of it like that. So yeah, it could be like, you want to manifest like a certain relationship or a certain job, or like it could be anything, but learning, first of all, you need to even get clear on what the fuck it is you even want to begin with, because once you're clear on that, then you can learn how to embody it. But you can't learn to embody it if you don't know. So I created a PDF journal prompt, just like, you can print it out or just like type into it on, PDF editor or whatever. I do recommend handwriting if you can, or even if I don't have a tablet, so like I don't know how to do it like this, but I've seen it online where like people with iPads or whatever can like use the stylus and like take notes on it on a PDF. So anyway, yeah, I don't know how to do that, but whatever way, I think like physically writing it out is the most impactful. But I made a PDF. It's a printable, you can download it for free. That it's just some journal prompts like about visualizing your highest self. And I will create more printable things like that in the future. But yeah, just it's going to help you take what I talked about here in the episode and figure it out yourself. So that way you have it written down, like what you want to visualize on. And then once you see it on paper and like kind of get your thoughts all organized, then you know how you can start to visualize it and how you can start embodying that in your real life. I hope that makes sense, because I feel like that didn't make any sense. Okay. A few last things before we end the episode. So I am gonna, like I said earlier at the beginning, I am gonna continue to create some guided audios, freebies and for purchase, both on different topics such as like abundance, self-confidence, breath work, anxiety, just like general personal development type stuff. And the more I learn about, I don't know how I would incorporate it, but definitely maybe something like body love, self-love type of thing, too. Not necessarily audios on like nutrition specifically, but more so just like the mindset around nourishing your body. Does that make sense? Yeah, just stuff like that. I definitely want to create more. I really enjoyed it. I did create a forgiveness meditation. It is, if you're like, okay, on Instagram or like my link in bio or on the show notes of the podcast, I'll put the link down there that you can click my link tree and it'll give you a little button to check that out. It's so it's a meditation slash visualization on forgiveness. And that kind of came like at a really random time. Like I wasn't expecting that to come up, but once it started, it just kind of all blurted out and I was like, okay, I need to make this now instead of the other stuff I was working on. So that's where last week's episode came into play about forgiveness. And then I knew I needed to create that extra resource to help people take what I said in the episode, but like put it into practice. So like, here's how can I actually work on forgiving someone for me, like in my own heart and in my own head. Like it's one thing like, okay, maybe you are working on like communicating with this other person amongst yourselves to like come to agreements or whatever it may be, but like you still got to do the work internally. So I really hope that resource helps you out. It's available for purchase. It's $1.11 US dollars. That's the cost of it. So it's really affordable and I hope it helps you out. I really think it's a good way to practice forgiving. Just having, it's good. How do I say this? It's a good resource for opening your mind to new perspectives on forgiveness, because I think initially as humans, like we tend to be closed off, or like if we feel hurt, we want to shut down and like be upset. And while yes, that there's a time and place for that, and it's valid to feel that, sometimes that hinders us from being open to other people's perspectives or other people's experiences, and it leads to bitterness. So this meditation is really, really helpful for like acknowledging your feelings, but also learning to be open to someone else's experience and finding compassion for them, even if you're not happy with what happened. It doesn't, like, there's a difference. And the forgiveness is about you healing yourself, ultimately. So that resource is available. Like I said, I'll put the link in the show notes. And also, if you follow me on Instagram, it's the link in bio on my Instagram. I also have a Facebook page, like for Sacred Health with Carolyn. It's not my I do have a personal Facebook page, but as far as like me using Facebook for this, it's going to be under Sacred Health with Carolyn as like a business page. And then I also have a private Facebook group that I just opened. Like I literally just did it like yesterday. So there's like nothing there yet, but I just had this urge for a long time to create a community of some kind. And I know my social media, it will build into that, and the podcast and all that. But I just wanted a private space, a safe space for people to come together, to learn from each other, to talk about maybe what they learned on the podcast and how they're implementing things, to share their journey, their health and wellness, like whether it's physical, like exercise and eat food and stuff like that, or like mental health, personal development shifts, manifesting or like growth mindset type of thing, sharing all those things in a safe space where we want to help build each other up and lift each other up. And like I've heard this come out in different ways, but where like people will be on a path to growth, like spiritual or mental growth, where they have more open-minded perspectives, or their beliefs are changing as they grow or as they like get older. Do you know what I mean? And their immediate circle is not receptive to that. They're not supportive, and it's confusing them. They're like, no, you need to, and they might not even say it like in this way, but just the feeling of like someone in their group is changing and other people get threatened by that. So they're like, no, you need to come back here. You need to, why do you think that? That's dumb. Or like, I'm not going to support you in these things because it's different to me and I'm not used to it. And it's like, I'm uncomfortable because there's change. Does that make sense? So I've seen variations of that come up in different ways. And it's sad because people deserve to feel supported, and they deserve to find a community and like have a community where they can feel safe and learn. Like the internet's great for that because a lot of people are bound to like their surroundings, and if their surroundings were all closed-minded, then they're just kind of screwed and it sucks. So the internet's great for learning new things, and I want this community to be a positive, like life-giving, vibrant community, but also I want it to be safe enough where we can be truthful and show tough love and honesty and like real talk with each other, not just like sugarcoating everything because that's the nice thing to do. Like, of course, be respectful, but you can be truthful or you can be straightforward and be respectful at the same time while not sugarcoating something. Do you know what I mean? I think some of the best conversations I've had, while they may be difficult in the moment, is that they're the ones where I get faced with a truth, or like faced with maybe me seeing a behavior I had, or like a point of view that I had that maybe I realized like I don't really align with that, or even just me, like something being brought up to me that it's a different perspective that I never thought of, and it just opened my mind. And those are some of the best conversations. And while initially you might feel some defensiveness come up internally, I feel like that's where the growth comes, is learning how to breathe through those feelings and learn how to just have a conversation with someone and learn from it, you know? So anyway, I hope that makes sense. Like I said, I just started this group yesterday, so like I don't really have anything in there, but it is a private group because I want you to be able to share vulnerably with each other, what you're going through, how we can help support you, maybe even like, progress photos or progress like posts, like sentences. You don't even have to show a picture, but just like, if you want to just talk about your growth, I want that to be, safe and like not public, so you can feel like you can share those things without worrying about like random people, or, people who aren't interested in the same headspace as you to see that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, check that link in my bio on Instagram, Sacred Health with Carolyn on Facebook, and the group is called Sacred Health with Carolyn Community. I know that's so original, but like I didn't know what else to call it. So right now that's the name, and I don't know what else to call it. So that's the name. But anyway, okay, so let's see what else. If you are like a visual person and you want to watch me talk and see how fucking awkward I can look on camera. Um, on YouTube, I will have the video of this episode available on September 26th at 10 a.m. I make the video available the following Tuesday after the podcast airs. So yeah, if you ever want to see the episode visually, that's how you can do that. Yeah, I guess that's it. So hopefully you learned something from this episode and it kind of opened your mind to meditation and visualization and how you can utilize them for growth and healing and just, you know, learning how to give it a shot even when it's difficult. You know? You know what I'm saying? Okay, anyway, I hope you have a good night. Thank you so much for listening slash watching. Um, okay, remember, strive to live. Oh my God, can I freaking talk? This is my ending tagline and I just like stuttered so bad. Okay, let's try this again. Thanks for taking the time to listen. I hope you learned something new and resonated with this. So I hope you have a good night. Thanks again. Remember, strive to live a vibrant life. See you next time.